Well, if I had $1 for every time I had to fight off a group of assassins while naked, I'd be the richest man on Trantor. Apple's Foundation Season 2 has been an incredible ride, solidifying Apple as the go-to platform for sci-fi, and in this video we're going to take a deep dive into Season 2 and hopefully answer some of the season's biggest questions. This will be a non-book spoiler review, but we'll still be going over some theories on what could happen in Season 3. Whereas Season 1 focused on the creation of Foundation, Season 2 takes place over 100 years later and revolves around something known as the Second Crisis, an event that will hail the Dark Times, a 30,000-year period filled with war, famine, and death. It was Harry Seldon who warned the Empire that only by following his plan can they shorten this period to 1,000 years, something Cleon and the Genetic Dynasty has no intention of following. When we begin Season 2, Gale Dornick shows her daughter, Salvor Hardin, the Prime Radiant, a device which contains all the predictions concerning the Empire expressed as a mathematical equation. According to Gale's interpretation of the data, the universe is on the cusp of this Second Crisis, an event which will determine whether humanity continues on Harry's path or one that sees catastrophic event after catastrophic event for tens of thousands of years. This is the main conflict of the season and sees Gale, Salvor, and a cloned Harry travel to the sparsely populated planet of Ignis. Gale has the ability to project her consciousness into the future, something she does in Episode 2. She believes this turning point, where the future has turned to darkness, is 150 years away. Thus she projects herself there and is introduced to the Mule. There's not much we know about him, other than the fact that he's an extremely powerful telepath who has conquered much of the galaxy. He, according to Gale, is the source of this upcoming darkness. The Mule's in search of the Second Foundation and its army of Mentalics, soldiers who have the ability to read and shape the minds of others. This prompts Gale and the team to head to Ignis, the location of the supposed Second Foundation. Harry always had the plan of two separate foundations that would keep each other in check, because
power corrupts, and a foundation left unchecked becomes empire all over again.
This is where we start the final episode. The leader of this ragtag group of Mentalic survivors are led by a telepath named Tellem, who's used her powers to call similar telepaths to live with her. In the Empire, telepaths are treated with condemnation. We see what happened to little Josiah and the people of his town when they found out he was a telepath. Anyone who can read your mind is a threat. But Tellem is hiding a terrible secret. She basically has everyone in this refuge under her control, and her powers are so great that she can hijack other people's bodies and essentially live forever. Whenever her body gets old, she takes over the body of a child and repeats the process. According to her, she's on her 7th incarnation. Now, Tellem does not want to be part of this Second Foundation. Her main priority is keeping her people safe and continuing her own ruse, so she tricks Gale and Salvor into thinking Harry has left the planet and abandoned them. In reality, she sent the real Harry to his death to be drowned by the tides, and at the end of Episode 9 it's revealed that Harry has miraculously survived as he saves the day by killing Tellem. But how was this possible? According to Gale, it was her telepathy that allowed her to hear Harry calling out to her. Their minds are linked and she could feel what he felt, so when he was drowning it was like she was drowning too. She takes over Harry's body and uses her power to force the guard to unlock him, thus allowing for his escape. And to finish it all off, Gale uses some mind trickery to change how people perceive this now dead guard in the water, making him to look as though it's Harry's dead body. This is why when Salvor finds him dead, she sees Harry and not the dead guard. Across the galaxy on the Empire homeworld of Trantor, Rue and Dusk have found themselves imprisoned in the secret lair of Demerzel. In Episode 9, my personal favorite of the season, we hear the tragic story of how Demerzel came to be. As a boy, before the Genetic Dynasty was even a thing, young Cleon I discovered a hidden room in the palace that hadn't been touched in thousands of years. There he found an imprisoned Demerzel, her body segmented in several parts. According to her, she is over 18,000 years old, having spent 5,000 of those years imprisoned here. She wasn't always called Demerzel, implies this wasn't always her body. As a leader in the Robot Wars, a war which humanity won, it was Emperor Aberanus who had her imprisoned and studied. Rather than kill her, he had her body segmented, but we're never really given a reason as to why she wasn't killed, especially considering Demerzel says she's the key to making more of a robotic kind, something that could prove very dangerous to humanity. Over the years, Cleon grew to love Demerzel and turned down all other proposals of marriage. None of the women in his life could compare to her, thus he came up with a plan: the genetic dynasty, with Demerzel charged with preserving the dynasty and de facto running the Imperium. But the most important detail is the brief moment Cleon sets Demerzel free before he inserts this chip. In this moment, she could easily snap his neck and walk to freedom, but she doesn't. Could it be because she truly loves him? Well, Cleon takes this moment to insert a chip into her, one which alters her programming. Under this new set of rules, she cannot bring harm to him, nor can she transmit her programming into another entity. Now you might ask yourself, how was Demerzel able to kill Brother Dusk if she can't bring harm to him? I've come up with 3 wildly different theories on this. The first is that Brother Dusk was never killed. We never see her actually kill him, so it's possible he's still out there somehow. The second is that her programming has been changed. Remember, it's been 600 years since Cleon put that chip in her. In episode 7, we also hear that Demerzel is only bound by one law.
Now, I'm bound by only one law.
Which is?
I serve Empire.
If her primary directive is to serve Empire, she can theoretically kill Dusk if it means serving the Empire. And finally, theory 3 is that Cleon's DNA has been manipulated to such an extent that his clones are no longer exact copies, allowing Demerzel to kill them. Remember in season 1 that one of the Brother Dawns was born left-handed and with different color eyes than their original Cleon, something he tried to keep hidden. It was later found that someone had been manipulating their genetic code little by little. If Demerzel's primary directive is to serve Empire, she would have to be against Brother Day marrying Sareth and ending the genetic dynasty. Part of the reason Day wants to end the dynasty is to prove that Harry Seldon is wrong. Seldon had said the genetic dynasty weakened the Empire, so Brother Day takes destiny into his own hands and ends it himself. But little does he know that Demerzel won't allow this to happen. She was the one who coordinated the failed assassination against him in episode 1 in an attempt to frame Sareth and end the engagement. By the end of the season, Demerzel has decanted 3 new Cleons, essentially able to start from scratch and continue the genetic dynasty. Meanwhile, Brother Day basks in the glory of having completely annihilated Terminus, the Foundation, and its people. He then orders General Bel Rios to attack and destroy the 7 other planets who had joined the Foundation, something the General disobeys, as it would be killing millions of innocent civilians and what he calls a, quote, the moral ruin of Empire. Cleon then orders Sheben's Light, a spacer, to take over and launch the jump to the next planet, but unbeknownst to Cleon, this has started a chain reaction whereby a folded spaceship jumps into the next one, creating a chain reaction of ships jumping into each other. This specific jump sequence was hidden in the body of Hober Mallow when, under orders from Harry Seldon, made an alliance with the Spacers. The Spacers are genetically modified beings who operate Imperial jump ships, and due to their modifications need a micronutrient called Opalisk. In exchange for this nutrient, the Empire demands that 10% of their people be relegated to operate Imperial jump ships, since only Spacers can do this work. But what Cleon doesn't know is the Foundation has A, the ability to fold space without the use of Spacers, and B, created a synthetic Opalisk so that Spacers will no longer have to rely on the Empire. Thus, the Spacers agree to sacrifice some of their people in this ploy for their overall freedom. Understandably, the quick-to-anger Cleon takes out his frustration on Hober and Bel Rios. Bel has a sordid history with Cleon, not taking his orders, being sent to a slave labor camp, told his husband's been murdered, only to find out he's alive and that he'll have to kill him by blowing up Terminus. They have a great fight with Bel being tossed out of the airlock, but in a brilliant twist, during the fight, Bel slipped on a Casterling device, the same device Hober Mallow used in episode 3 in his attempt to steal the Eye of Corel. It allows the users who wear it to switch places, so as Bel is thrust out of the airlock, he clicks the device and swap places with Cleon, who freezes to death with the destruction of Terminus in the backdrop. And just a reminder, if you like these types of videos, please leave a like and subscribe. Every little bit helps the channel out. Back on Trantor, Dawn demands to know why his secret lover, the would-be Empress Sareth has been arrested. Dawn can't do much, seeing as Demerzel knows he was secretly having an affair with a woman who is set to be wed today. But Dusk has left a warning for Dawn on Demerzel herself, a smudge of green paint. In episode 5, Dusk told Dawn about how green is the color of a betrayer, so this little mark indicates she's not to be trusted. This is what prompts him to storm into Sareth's room and rescue her. The last we see of them, the two are on a ship leaving Trantor, with Sareth proclaiming that she is pregnant with Dawn's child. This could mean this unborn child has a claim to the throne. Constant is the only one to survive the explosion of the Imperial ship, having said a heartfelt goodbye to Hober, who dies in the blast. She managed to escape in an external cleaning module, where she'll eventually be picked up by Harry Seldon and the Vault. It seems to have made its way off planet before the blast, and as we'll soon see, took everyone from Foundation with it. Remember that the Vault doesn't operate within the confines of physics as we know it, so while it may look like this on the outside, on the inside it can house thousands of people. I also found it interesting that they let Glawen Kerr come with them. He was Bel's husband and an Imperial fighter, basically an enemy, so I'm curious if there will be plans for him in the future. I also want to bring attention to the fact that time works differently in the Vault. It's only been about 1 or 2 hours since Terminus was destroyed and Constant was picked up, yet for the people in the Vault it may seem like days, so I'm curious if this will come into play next season. Back on Ignis, Gale, Salvor, and Harry have joined forces with Tellem's crew after it was revealed they were under Tellem's spell. But Tellem, although dead, has jumped into the mind of poor Josiah over here, who is mind-controlled to kill Gale. Luckily, Salvor steps in the way and takes the shot, killing Josiah and Salvor in the process. This has great implications, because this isn't where Salvor was supposed to die. According to Gale's vision, Salvor was supposed to die 150 plus years into the future at the hands of the Mule. This suggests that changing the future is possible.
You were right. The future can be changed.
If this can be changed, can they also change the impending darkness to come? But this is not to say Salvor still won't die in the future. In a show that has clones, cryosleep, and the uploading of one's consciousness, there are no doubt ways we could see Salvor once again. Looking at the Prime Radiant, Gale says the path is still off course. They are still headed toward this great crisis in the future. She doesn't want Salvor's death to be in vain, and thus Harry devises a plan for the two of them to take on the Mule and change the future. Originally, Harry wanted Gale to become this almost godlike figure, going into cryosleep to emerge once a year to get updates on what's happening and provide inspiration to this burgeoning Second Foundation. Meanwhile, Harry would stay with the Second Foundation and over time eventually die. Gale doesn't accept this. If she's to fight, she needs Harry, and thus the two decide to cryosleep together. It's never mentioned whether or not the two will come out of cryo every year. Such was Harry's original plan, but I imagine they would. After Demerzel decants 3 new Cleons, she shows them her new tool, a Prime Radiant given to her by Harry Seldon in episode 9. I think Harry knows that Demerzel will be pivotal in the upcoming battles to save humanity. Just look at the way he turns to her while reciting this line.
The future is invented every second. Invent a better one.
Harry wanted Demerzel to have this Prime Radiant, and even offered to teach her how to read the math within it. So when Demerzel says there are, quote, wonderful things ahead, it could mean many things. With the help of Harry, she might be able to finally break free of her programming. In the flash forward with the Mule, we know that the Empire no longer exists 150 years in the future, so I expect next season we'll see its downfall for good, and that Demerzel is key to its ruin, whether it be consciously or subconsciously. And the final thing we need to discuss is the last scene 152 years into the future featuring the Mule. It looks like he could be on the same planet we saw him on in Gale's flash forward, with sounds of war in the background. It's not clear whether he's talking to someone or to himself, but I think we can make out his electric hand cannon thing in the foreground. He is on a mission to find Gale and kill her before she kills him. One of the things I'm looking forward to the most is why the Mule is destroying all these planets to get to Gale. What is his motivation? Also, who is the Mule? Is he a completely new character, or could he be a character we already know inhabiting his body? We saw how Tellem can take over different bodies, and Demerzel hinted that she had been in a different body before before too. I think the most WTF thing the writers could do here is make it so that the Mule is actually Gale or Harry Seldon in the Mule's body. After all, this is a sci-fi show, there are ways it can be done, but I could just see that being a truly shocking moment if it's written well with compelling motivation. I thoroughly enjoyed this season, and rumors have it that the third season has started production, but an official announcement has yet to be made. Now I want to know what you thought of season 2. Leave your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, make sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember...
You're a sperm led by its waving flagellum, mistaking its random motion for complexity.